It's 6 p.m. and we're ready to start our council meeting. Want to welcome everybody here. And please, if you have a cell phone, put it on silence or turn it off. Roll call, everybody's present except for Luke, and he's excused. If you'd please stand. If you'd please stand and join us in the pledge, and that'll be offered by Councilman Arnold Lopez, and the invocation will be by Mike Andazola, Councilman Mike Andazola.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For now, for updated purposes, we will be doing the invocation from the podium now. Please join me. Heavenly Creator, we thank you for this day which you have bestowed upon us, Lord. We thank you for this weather and this rain coming down. And we just thank you for this beautiful day that we have within the Gila Valley. We ask you to be with everyone here tonight. Great Creator, we ask you to be with us, the council, as we go to work to make decisions for this wonderful community and as we bring everybody together. We ask you to please pray for our city manager, our city clerk, our department heads, our employees that we value the most. And we pray most of all for our military and first responders. In thy Creator's name, amen.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to item number 5, citizen comments on agenda items. And I believe we do have, Mr. Clough would like to address the council.
Mrs. Clough.
Let's see, call me.
State your name and your address, please.
My name is Julie Clough, and I live here in Safford, not in the city limits, but a great part of this community. And I'm here we were on vacation last week when they brought names forward for the Safford Regional Airport. And I know that my father's name was submitted, Dwayne Spalsbury, and I just wanted you to know that that was kind of his second home, or third home, I guess. He loved being out at the hospital. He did a lot of work there for them being a part of the board. But his Sunday afternoons were spent out at that Safford Airport. He had planes out there. In fact, he had the first plane he had out there was in the big hangar on the far east side, I think it is, that got destroyed in a snowstorm. And his plane, and I think one other one out of the 6 in there, were the only 2 that didn't get hurt in that one. He had a little Piper Cub that he flew, and then he traded up every few years, and he ended up with a Cessna 170. Even after he had his heart attack and he couldn't fly, he would still go out there and spend time with, I think his name was Todd Wilcox. He was a mechanic out there in that one hangar that's no longer there beside the airport building there. But he loved that place, and he did some improvements there. And he loved being out there. He loved the camaraderie of the ones that he got to fly with. I'll mention some old names that haven't been heard from in a while. Vic Hansen and Tom Jensen and Herman Studi. Just some of them that were businessmen downtown. They all had a part in that airport, and they loved it. And he did too. I loved to fly with them. Unfortunately, I didn't do it that much because I got sick every time. But he loved being up there flying. And even after like I said, he had his heart attack, he went out there, would clean his plane up and make it look pretty before he sold it, which was so hard for him to do. And even after that, he got into a hobby that they did a little bit out there. There was the remote-controlled airplanes, which he did with the former Mayor Kautz's father, Wesley Kautz. They got together and they did their radio-controlled airplanes. So we have a history with that airport, and we have for a long time. Plus, being in the military, he flew a lot of planes. The P-51, P-38, P-47, there's a bunch of others. My husband and my kids could tell you more about that. But just wanted you to know that I think of the airport and I think of the wonderful time that my dad had there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and any citizen comments on non-agenda items? Then we'll move on to item number 7. It's a United Way presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight on behalf of the City of Safford Employee United Way Committee. Throughout the year, the City of Safford Employee United Way Committee puts together events and raises funds to donate to the United Way at the end of the year. This year's campaign, we ended up raising $8,205.50. That includes what we raised through events and then also the employee payroll deductions. So at this time, I'd like to present a check to anybody here from the United Way. And if you'd like to speak, Denise, you can speak now on what the United Way does for the community.
Is it in my name?
I do want to real quick just say a word, if I might. Thank you all so very much, all of you. This is our board president, Laura Durrell. She is the mayor of Clifton. This is former Mayor Thatcher. Bob Rivera is one of our board members. And we have Danny Smith is joining us. He's also one of our board members. So, and of course, Mayor Will. We're so glad to be here. We're so grateful. And I just wanted to say, I don't want to assume that most people know what United Way does. We are a nonprofit who funds other nonprofits. So with that said, we rely on donor dollars in order for us to operate. And so everything we do is thanks to our donors. And we're very proud to partner with the City of Safford in that. We're just very grateful to the city employees, the staff there, find that a priority, that they take the time and the energy to do that. I have been at these events. And I've participated and helped with some of them, the golf tournament, Oktoberfest. If you've ever been to these events, you enjoy the event, but you don't know necessarily what goes on behind the scenes. There's a tremendous amount of work and energy that goes into those planning meetings well ahead of time, hours spent setting up, hours spent tearing down, people volunteering time to work booths and do all the amazing things we do, or they do. So those are no small things. Last year in 2023, United Way was able to fund $3.9 million into our communities in Grand Marin County, thanks to our donors. And thank you to all of you, all the city employees. Thank you to all of you who support that, all of the administration who allow the employees to take part in that. Also, that was almost double the funding we did in 2022. We're very excited about that. Can't do it without our donors. So thank you, City of Safford. Thank you, all of you. Thank you to all the employees. We are so very grateful, and we are so happy to be here tonight and to receive this from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. And we'll close regular council meeting and reconvene into a Board of Adjustment session. Number 9, the public hearing by the Board of Adjustments. Number 1, it's a GCRC variance request. Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a variance request for 520 West Main Street for the GCRC property to allow the doors to open out into the right-of-way. This is a request for a variance of section 3202.2 of the International Building Code, which is adopted into our city code. Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of the variance application from Mr. Hegel representing GCRC. A current City of Safford building permit is open for the remodeling of the building, and doors or windows shall not open or project into the public right-of-way. Any doors and windows above grade and below 8 feet in height are strictly prohibited in the section of the code which is adopted in section 151010 of the City of Safford Municipal Code. There is not an alternative option allowed for in the code. The next section in your packet goes through the variance process, and in granting or denying the variance, it shall not be authorized unless the Board of Adjustment shall find sufficient evidence that, number 1, having to adhere strictly to the letter of this title will cause difficulties and hardships upon the petitioner which are unnecessary in order to carry out the purposes of this title. Number 2, special circumstances are attached to the property covered by the same application that do not apply to other properties in the same zone. Number 3, that because of said special circumstances, property covered by the application is deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same zone, and that the granting of the variance is essential to the enjoyment of property possessed by other properties in the same zone. Number 4, the difficulties and hardships were not created by any act of the appellant subsequent to the effective date of the regulation appealed from. The applicant has been provided with this information, and a notification was mailed to the property owners within 300 feet on February 5th. It was also published in the newspaper, and we did receive one email response, and it is in your packet and states, I walked the 500 block and all the other doors on the street have an inset so doors could swing either way. I have to say that I cannot agree with the doors swinging out on the 520 West Main Street building. It could create a hazard to pedestrians. And it is staff's recommendation that the Board of Adjustment deny a variance from the International Building Code section 3202.2, finding that it does not meet the evidence requirements in the section 17.8804C, numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4. Number 1, the requirements apply to any remodel of any structure and prevent conflict with passing pedestrians. Number 2, this applies to any building in the area. Number 3, once again, this applies to any property in the area. And number 4, the remodel is current and the ability to have the doors open in compliance with the code is available, and there is a photo in your packet of the current area of the doors. With that, I will stand for questions.
Anybody have any questions up there?
Jamie, where was the original door?
Mr. Hego is here and he can give you that. His building plans are also attached. And you'll see where they were remodeled on the second. When he comes up to speak, he can give you the entire detail of the building plans, and those are attached with the application. They were inset originally, and you'll see in this photo that there is room to inset them again.
Anybody else?
Maybe this is a question there, but is it not also possible to just not inset them, but have them open into the building?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess the question would be, why isn't that desirable on that end?
Correct. If we could.
Gotta be open.
Hi, my name's Lane.
And I'm Grant Walker, an attorney for the GCRC, and a friend of GCRC, my son having been one of their clients. And we have some additional pictures and an explanation that we'd like to give. May I distribute the?
Please.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Chris.
And while you're looking at those pictures, I think it would be helpful if Lane explained kind of what is going to go on behind those doors. And there's the cream-colored archway is an entrance into two different buildings. And so Lane, if you would explain what's goes on behind those two buildings.
Right, so where we're actually looking at putting these doors is that archway where there currently are no doors. You can see in that picture, the door to the stairs going to the second floor is actually on the bottom step of the staircase, right? And so,
If you take a look at that first picture in your packet, it shows that cream-colored archway and a door on your left and a hallway going back on your right.
right, so that hallway on the right will go back to an elevator that will make that second floor accessible to our residents. We're in the process of turning the second floor above all these buildings into apartments for our program participants, right? So there'll be some independent living apartments and a group home and so on. So again, on the right side, there's the hallway to the elevator. On the left side is the stairwell to those apartments, but currently the door is on the bottom step of it. So the stairs, it's literally on the stairs. You can see on the second picture there. We need to take that door out, and then we're requesting where the archway is now to put doors there, put some double doors big enough that if we had to get a gurney down the staircase, it could come out and go down out through the double doors there, which is part of why you can see that little foyer there was never intended to have doors there, so there's not really much room for doors to swing in. That's why we're requesting doors to swing out. Yeah.
And that second picture shows the staircase. That is not a new staircase. That's a concrete staircase that's been in the building for 50 years. And so GCRC has bought up some of these old buildings along that block and has been doing them repurposed. Some of the buildings were vacant for years.
For decades, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, that second floor was a mess. It had been abandoned forever. The building that you see there open, that was rented, but behind it, where this hallway goes, all the windows were broken out. Pigeons have been living in there for decades. It was a mess. Same thing with those two kind of gray buildings you see there. They were white before, and pigeons have been living in there for decades. It was such hundreds and hundreds of pigeons, literally.
Now, these are the residents who will have access to the second floor area through the elevators in the back and through the staircase in the front, are special needs individuals who work in the at the thrift store and who participate in GCRC's programs. Some of them have real physical limitations, and that's why it's important that in the event of a fire, the elevators are going to be inoperable. So they'll have to vacate. The residents will have to vacate down this staircase, and it's not so simple as just kind of if the door at the bottom of the staircase has to swing out because it can't swing in because the stairs are right there. And so they have to swing out, and then if you have an in-swinging door there, and you're trying to get one of the special needs people down the stairs on a gurney and out in case of the fire, you could have a terrible bottleneck and a tragedy occur.
Yeah, and again, gurney will go down the elevator most of the times, but there may be those times when the gurney may need to go down the stairs. We have EMS at our facility all the time. One of the diagnoses that gets you in our program is epilepsy. So we have people have seizures almost weekly. We have EMS down there. And a lot of times they will have to transport. They fall, they hit their heads, they have to be transported out. We need that availability. And plus, like you said, if there was a fire, you got, 20 people coming down the stairs, stacking up against the door because they can't figure out how to come, they're panicking, they can't get the door in, they need to go out,
And I've asked Lane, well, how come you can't just move the door out, and then the one that's there, and have it swing this way, and then have it go over here and swing this one in? And the answer was, you can't navigate that with a gurney. And, I have, my older sister's handicapped. She's bedridden at this point in her life. She had a fire in her home 2 years ago, and the firemen had to take her out the window. And they had to come in and put her on a gurney and take her out, and they saved her life. And this needs to be safe in a fire situation. Now, if you take a look at the next picture in your packet, you'll see that the building that is just next door, just west of this entrance, has doors that swing out onto the sidewalk.
They don't swing in, they only swing out.
Yes, the ones on the,
Where the Copper Cotton building is?
yes, the Copper Cotton building has doors that swing out. And there, and contrary to the email we listened to just a minute ago, there are a number of buildings up and down Main Street where the doors swing out onto the sidewalk.
Yep, one of the doors to our thrift store swings out on the sidewalk. It's always been that way, and it just is.
And it's not that, and again, one of the factors is whether or not we've created, the applicant for the variance has created this problem. These buildings are 50 to 100 years old. And that cement staircase that was put in there is at least 50 years old. And so the GCRC did not create this situation. And it's not a situation that's going to be different than the other buildings up and down Main Street. Right in this block, there are at least 2 other buildings where double doors swing out. Now, they'll swing out 30 inches,
Yeah,
but
those-
they leave 6.5 feet of sidewalk beyond that 30 inches.
Yeah, we have a drawing there from our architect showing that, and his understanding is that the public right-of-way only needs a minimum of 36 inches. And with the sidewalk being 9 feet, there's plenty of room for the doors to swing out and still the public access. Again, because there are existing doors that currently swing out. Our proposal is to do, like you see there, where the Copper Cotton is, we can put something on the sides of it to delineate that there's, there needs to be some clearance there, because they have those planters on each side of the door. We'd like to do something like that, and have the door swing out.
That I think is about the 4th picture in your packet, and it shows the front of the Copper Cotton, et cetera, building, and the planters that they have intentionally put out into the sidewalk so that people will give it some clearance and nobody will get bumped by the door.
Yeah, they weren't originally there. The doors have always swung out, even after the remodel they did, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. But they added the planters there sometime the last couple of years, just to, assume for decorative looks, but it would serve that purpose of delineating that additional clearance.
So I'd like to review quickly the 4 points that were that the staff member went over. The variance shall not be authorized unless the Board of Adjustment shall find sufficient evidence that 1, having to strictly adhere to the letter of the title will cause difficulties and hardships upon the petitioner, which are unnecessary in order to carry out the purpose of the title. So they're going to be and about 20 apartments, is that right?
They're about, between staff and residents, there'll be about 20 people upstairs at all,
20
pretty much all night long.
And there's gonna be, in the back of the building that the face hasn't been put on yet, there's going to be a banquet hall in the back that'll seat around 100. And kind of in that alcove, the archway that's, the plaster archway that's that picture number 1, there is not sufficient room to allow that door to swing in and the door at the bottom of the stairs to swing out like as it has to. And so, and we've talked at some length now about the need that in an emergency, that there needs to be a straight shot to get a gurney down the hall, down that stairway and out the front door. And it's especially true in the case of a fire. The second point is special circumstances are attached to the property covered by this application that do not apply to other properties in the same zone. And the answer is the residents who live upstairs have special needs, and they're an at-risk population if there has to be an emergency exit. And that's why this variance is important. Not only that, the other properties along the street have doors, double doors that swing out, only swing out. Number 3, because of special circumstances, property covered by the application is deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same zone. Well, other properties in the same zone are allowed to have doors that swing open. And then for number 4, the difficulties and hardships were not created by any act of the appellant subsequent to the effective date. The building is 50 years old, and the concrete stairway has been there for 50 years. And so that special circumstance wasn't created by GCRC. And for these reasons, we'd like the Board of Adjustments to grant the variance that we're requesting.
Sir,
Yeah.
on the beige entry there now, that door swings out now,
It does.
and it's gonna stay that way.
No, that door's coming off.
Coming off, and that one you
Yeah,
wanna put out
'cause that's-
on the sidewalk.
That's even worse to have a door on the stairs, right, where people are trying to get out. There needs to be a landing at the bottom of it.
So, are you gonna keep that indentation for the door to swing out? Or are you bringing it to the sidewalk?
So we're taking the door off the stairs and then putting the doors in the archway right there along the outside wall of the building. The doors will be parallel with the outside wall of the building there.
So
They'll
the
fill that
door-
archway.
The door exists coming out now the way it is. It swings out.
The door on the stairs, yes.
Okay, so that door you're considering, plus you're wanting new additional
Well,
building on the right there. Yeah, that framing there.
yeah.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
so that frame in there, that's part of that hallway. That building is gonna be a separate suite. It's not part of anything we're talking about. But in that archway, and again, one of the pictures there shows the door at the stairs. That door will come out, and then in the archway itself is where we're gonna put the doors. We're gonna put double doors, looking very similar to the ones you see at Gila Valley, the Copper Cotton building.
So you're talking about 2 doors.
We'd like to put 2 doors.
Two doors.
Make it so that, again, there's plenty of room for Gurney to come down, that we feel one door, if one door was centered, that would be, again, trying to hit that. We'd like to put double doors.
Okay, when I went to visit the site, I thought you were leaving the door that's already in there, because it already meets code. And then you had new framing to the right that it doesn't show in this picture because it shows opening. You have that built all the way out to the sidewalk already.
Right.
And that's the one that you want to swing out?
Yes.
Okay,
And I
'cause
don't
that
think,
one-
does a door on a stairwell like that meet code? I thought stairwells had to have a landing, but I think you could actually have a door on the step itself.
That's what we're discussing now. I
Yeah.
just know that what you have now swings out, and doesn't go into the right of way.
Right.
But you wanting to bring it out.
Yes,
when
I wanna bring it
already-
out. Yes.
It already meets the code.
Yes, I wanna bring
Okay.
it out.
And then the new door on the right, that's flush now the way you've built, added to the frame already, and that one would be swinging out.
No, that one actually can swing in. Because-
In, that
Yeah,
one's
that, I'm
gonna
okay with
swing
that. You know, all the others, we've remodeled most of the buildings on this side of the block, and a lot of them did swing out, we've set them back. I have no issue with that. And again, the building next to us there, like I said, we remodeled it flush, that door will swing in. None of those I care about, right? I don't care about any of those. This one, I have concern about because of our population upstairs, trying to get out in the event of an emergency. I don't want people stacking up against the door, you know, because they can't figure out to open the doors, everybody's trying to get out. I want to be able to get a gurney out of there, again, it's regular, EMS shows up at our place almost weekly. And people get transported. My only concern in this requested variance is the safety of our members. That's the only reason I'm here.
Yes, and I'm glad the one that the new one you're putting in is gonna go in.
Yeah.
Because I don't see 9 feet of sidewalk there. And besides that door, if you opened it out, then you'd have even less room because there's a street light pole right in front of it also.
Yeah,
And
no.
that would cause.
That one is already been ordered to swing in.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Okay, so
I
you're
don't
just,
care about any of the
you're,
doors on there.
you're just talking about this one.
Just that.
Just that one.
That's the only door I care about.
And it already is inset and swings out. Yeah.
Yes,
It
but again,
already-
I'm not sure, does a door on stairwell meet, again, from the inside, as you're coming down, you know, the door handle's way down here at your knees because the door's at the bottom of the steps, right?
I think,
Yeah.
I think I got the picture.
Yeah, yeah, that second picture kind of shows the situation with the existing door. We swung it open and took a picture of that concrete stairwell, staircase that's been there for 50 years. And as an auxiliary entrance and exit to an unoccupied attic, it was sufficient. But when you start putting apartments upstairs and housing special needs people, then this door is a hazard, the way it is. Because it's sitting, you know, as Lane says, you come down, you're still standing on the stairs, you come down and you open the stairs up and swing out, and it just doesn't work.
But that won't be the only fire exit, is it?
No, in fact, there's a door at the back of the building. We've already built stairs there. There was no stairs to it, just the door. And so we built stairs to the back door also.
Okay.
But,
And
but again, it's just a fire exit stairs. There'll be no way to get a gurney down those stairs, right?
But-
There's a 4-foot landing at the top, it's required by code, and then there's the stairs.
But the one in back can handle a gurney.
It can't, no.
It can't handle a gurney.
No.
And it's,
I don't see how you'd make the corner of the landing. We built them, again, just the minimum requirements. Yeah. I don't say you could turn it. Maybe, they might be able to pick it up and turn it, I'm not sure.
I guess I don't understand why the one in the back, you're not required to achieve what you're trying to achieve out the front with a gurney. Both of them I'm thinking ought to have the
Good
same
question.
amount of exit.
Yeah,
I don't know how that can be like that.
yeah. And again, the back was intended to be just emergency exit only. The front, so in an actual emergency though, like that, most of our people wouldn't need to go through a gurney in the event of a fire. It'd be more like just on a weekly kind of basis when people fall and have seizures and bust their heads, they need access to a gurney. And if there's ever a problem with the elevator, they're gonna have to go down the stairs. As far as an actual, like if there's a fire or something like that, people can get out to the landing on the back stairwell, they can get to the landing at the top of the stairs, because according to code on that, there will be a fire door at the top of the stairs, so the stairs become that, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there has to be a safety haven, you know, if there's an event of the fire upstairs. So it will be a fire door by code at the top of the stairs also, but it's a
don't know.
landing.
I guess
But then-
your people staying there, I would think need access to the same exit both ways, so but I've never been faced with that. I'm done, Mayor.
Any other comments?
Well, I don't want to start an argument with Mr. Walker because I'll lose, but I would argue, I don't like the word, but I would argue that you have created this situation by putting handicapped people in a bad situation to begin with. That was built as a newspaper office, if I remember correctly. It was never designed to have, that staircase is twice the size of any other in height. I don't know how often it has to have a landing, but I used to go up that stair and it's a long ways. I think you're putting people in jeopardy by putting them up there in the first place and then trying to make it our problem. I'm having a hard time swallowing that. As a fireman, it's going to be impossible to get those people out of there in the case of a fire, regardless of what you do in this situation. I don't want to see those people up there. I want to see them where they can walk out a big wide door and get outside right now. They don't need to have to be carried out or on a stretcher or anything else. They need to be able to get themselves out because time is of the essence if they get a fire up there. And that is arguing over whether we have a foot or 18 inches of clearance is, in my viewpoint, is sadly remiss if we go there, because after it happens, if that's not enough, we bake them. And I'm not ready for that.
So the population we're looking at putting up there it's independent living, so they are all, fully ambulatory, they live in their own apartments now. And so that's.
But
that's
that
the
place
pop-
would
but
not
again,
qualify
competent.
for that type of building today. You're getting that because it's already there. I'm gonna go with the recommendation, and I'm gonna vote against it. You guys can do what you want, but I just see it as a disaster waiting to happen. I'm sorry. I know you've invested some money in this, and I wish you had talked to a engineer or architect prior who knew the rules, rather than dragging him in at the back to make an excuse or a way out. But, well, you know where I stand.
We did. We talked to an architect.
Jamie, what's the reason that, if there is one, that the building next door doesn't qualify for the exception on number 3?
Because I'd have to look up and see when that was remodeled and see what year the code was passed and see if it's current code. So right now, this code applies to anything built in this year. We're in the 2015 code. So I would have to look back and find the plans and see what year those doors were installed to open outwards. If Mr. Hegel owns the building, he might have some answers on that.
We just bought 2 years ago. I know they were modeled before Copper Cotton was in there. EA Glass came and redid the whole front of the building.
So that was quite a time ago.
I guess what I'm not understanding is how does the time fit into that exception?
Building codes change, Councilman Hemphill and Vice Mayor Ortega. Building codes change every few years, and the code cycle we're on and the international building code we're on adapts through time.
Okay, so is this our policy, or?
So the international building code is nationwide. We adopt it, and this
No.
is our city municipal code.
This is our policy for the
Yes, sir.
variance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so wherein, because of said special circumstances, property covered by the application is deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same zone, what does when
So we have what we call non-conforming structures, and this question came up with our setback issue as well. With a city this old, especially downtown, buildings were remodeled during different periods of time when different codes, different building inspectors were in place. And in time, as those evolve with safety and fire codes and things like that, they evolve. So any current building permit has to meet those codes. They may be different than codes were 10 years ago. And so those are probably non-conforming structures and that were done on a previous code.
Okay, so, and I'm not trying to be difficult.
Correct.
But do we need, do we need this to speak to that a little more?
So what the difference is there is, if Copper Cotton were to remodel today, they would have to meet this same code.
Right, and all I'm asking is, based on what this says,
Mm-hmm.
what precludes that?
The year it was remodeled.
Based on what this says, this doesn't say anything about years.
Correct.
So based on what this says,
Mhm.
what precludes?
The existing code has no exception allowed. So that precludes it for this case and what that
Right,
says.
but for the variance,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just still not seeing how they're not deprived of something another based on just the wording of this.
Correct. So if we'll look back at the previous case that had the setbacks, and you'll see that in that case, because of the situation in the subdivision, different setbacks were allowed in previous years when it was built, and it's the same way that this applies. So if this were done 15 years ago, it would probably be fine. These regulations weren't in place. So he is not deprived of anyone who wants to completely demo and remodel a building downtown. He's not deprived of
Right.
anything anyone else is who removed the entire facade of their building and started again.
Right, which I guess my hangup is this doesn't speak to at all.
The staff report or the code?
The code, this code, I'd like, the,
Um,
if that's how we filter it, which I completely get, that makes total sense, that they're not deprived of any, what's the term? Privilege.
Correct. So,
Anybody else that were try to do this now?
yes, could not.
Exactly, so,
And Mr. Sims is probably the best to answer that question for you because it goes into the legal justification of
Right.
how these codes are
but
written.
again, maybe I'm just getting too caught up in what our variance, language is.
So in essence, in this case, it means that anyone who is this close to the right-of-way, which is mostly in the historic downtown area because most other places are set back with parking requirements. If anyone else was to remove the facade of their building today, they would have to have their doors open in or inset them
Right,
if they wanted
right.
to open them out.
Yeah, and I've gone around it enough, but that's not what this says.
Correct, because that has to be an umbrella, and again, Mr. Sims can answer this best, but that has to be an umbrella for any variance to any section of the code, so it has to be a little brief so that it applies to any situation. And once again, that is the entire reason that we have a Board of Adjustment and that you're here to hear both my analysis of
right.
it and the applicant,
Right.
so that in each case, we can look individually at what's
Right.
going on.
And I appreciate your explanation.
Correct.
Again, but to me, to just read that, it sounds like any other buildings nearby that open out that aren't inset have a privilege that we're denying.
So they are non-conforming, and if Copper Cotton, if they wanted to remodel, which the same owner owns the building, if he wanted to remove that facade, the doors would
Right.
have to open
So I'd
in.
love to see some language in our variance that says,
Mr. Sims can answer that. We would need to look at rewriting our code, and it's hard to make it too specific because then it won't apply to this could apply to anything that they're requesting to build within the city of Safford. So if you get too specific, it's very difficult to have a Board of Adjustment hearing for an individual variance, because as you've seen, we've had a fence, setbacks, and this. So it would be very hard to write something that covered all of those without excluding a
Right,
lot of
but
them.
in that example, if that person could say, there's somebody next door to me with exactly the same thing I'm asking for, and our reason for saying no was, well, they're out of compliance too because their code was from a different time, this could speak to that with a little bit, I don't think it has to get way more specific. I think a little tweak to this would make a big difference, because if I'm reading this, if I'm the property owner, I'm gonna read the same thing.
Correct.
My next door neighbor has this privilege, and I don't.
Mr. Sims is. I thought he was going to.
But you've explained it perfectly, I get it, but I'm just not real happy with the way the variance reads.
I think you're reading the variance language.
Mr. Mayor, this is Bill Sims.
Go ahead, Bill.
Hello.
We can hear you, Bill.
Could I ask Jamie a question? All the other properties that have the door swinging out, are they non-conforming uses?
Yes, sir.
She said yes, Bill.
Mr. Mayor and Council, or now Board of Adjustment, I was concerned when I heard that there were other properties with doors swinging out, and were we applying the code consistently? What Jamie is telling you is that the ones that swing out are non-conforming uses, and so I do think she's applying the code consistently. I don't know, indeed, so I think that would support denying it. But if some of you want us to explore it further, we could table this and we could see if we could find an alternative. Right now, I would support Jamie's conclusion, but if you would like us to, we could look at it further. I was concerned when I heard about all the other doors opening up, but if they're all legal non-conforming, that explains why Jamie is being consistent. But if you wish us to put on our thinking caps and see if there's a way to accomplish it, I'd be happy to try to work with Jamie, but I support her analysis so far.
Anybody else have anything?
Can I speak to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the International Building Code that's been adopted is probably for new construction. It's probably not for a city like Safford that wants to keep its historic downtown, where a lot of the buildings are 100 years old or older. And so it's like, and you have a lot of what they're calling now legal non-conforming buildings. But this isn't a case where they've completely gutted the building and they're starting from scratch. They're dealing with a building that's been there for 50 years, and that concrete stairway that they're keeping, that it would be a major deal to demolish. And so, in all due respect to Mr. Sims, I've worked with him on a number of cases. I disagree with the analysis on your, I think the council member is reading the variance code properly. And so this building is being deprived of privileges that other buildings have and aren't creating real problems. The code says you need a 36-inch wide walkway. The sidewalk there is how wide? 9 feet or close to it?
Close to 9 feet, yeah.
So
Between where the bricks are and the wall, it's 8 to 9 feet.
yeah, so it's not like this is a safety hazard or an aesthetic problem. And in fact, GCRC has really cleaned up and made that block a lot nicer than it was before.
You know, I'd like to make a comment, and then I think there's a couple more council members that would like to speak on it. One thing that, you know, however any door opens, closes, or whatever, I'm not that concerned about it. The biggest thing I'm concerned about is what Councilman McGoy brought up, the safety of the tenants. That, to me, that's huge, and like, you know, he's a fireman, he's been there, so that's my comment. Go ahead, Brent.
Just one more quick question. Were sliding doors not a possibility?
I'm not sure if there'd be room, the archway, I'm not sure there's room to make them sliding doors, the archway, because you would need to, with the door plus doubling that. But we hadn't even considered sliding doors, but again, given the width of the archway, I'm not sure there'd be room for that. You can see the drawing we have there, that's the architect's drawing of the front of that building with 2 3-foot doors. I don't know that there would be room to do that. He also shows measurements of the sidewalks and everything else. From the curb to wall is 13 feet 5 inches from actual curb, but then you have also the bricks there and stuff and the lights.
Okay.
Did anybody else have any comment, or?
I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to restate my objection, and only because I probably didn't word it right, and I probably won't again, but number 4 says the difficulties and hardships were not created by any of the appellant's actions. And I would say that they were created by the appellant just because they changed the occupation of that building. It was created to be a newspaper office. I carried many bundles of The Guardian up and down those stairs as a 13 and 14-year-old, and that worked fine. But when you change that from a newspaper office to handicapped housing, or however you want to word that, it was not designed for that, and that is your decision to go that route, and so it is based on your decision to make a change. So I don't see that you've fulfilled all 4 of those, regardless of,
Right.
even if his argument is correct, I still don't think you've passed number 4.
And that was the question in my mind, as you said that, Councilman McGoy, this isn't and, is it or is it? It's just one, or.
You have to fulfill all 4 as I read it,
Oh, it is all 4?
and you can't fulfill number 4.
Yes.
Yes. It is all 4.
Okay, anybody else have any?
I would also welcome tabling this and getting more information. If you think you can make your case, I'm okay with that, but at this point, that's my stand on it.
Do
Anybody
we
else?
need a motion to table it, or?
No, I think, Mayor Ortega, Councilman Andizal, I think you'd have to come out of the public hearing first, and then you could table the action item.
Okay, no other comments right now. Then we'll
Mr. Mayor, members of council or Board of Adjustment, one argument supporting a tabling is to avoid litigation costs. If indeed you decide against this, the next step would be Superior Court. I don't know a better zoning administrator than Jamie. I support Jamie's conclusions. If you wish to table it, I'd be happy to work with Jamie to see if there's any way to address it. I don't know that there is, particularly given my concern about public health and safety. But if to avoid going to Superior Court, tabling it could allow Jamie and me to meet with or discuss with the applicant, because I do believe Jamie's right, but I'll keep an open mind. But that would argue for tabling to avoid litigation.
Okay, now we closed,
Gotta make sure there's nobody from the public.
okay, is there anybody, I've asked a couple of times, anybody from the public, please, now's the time to talk. Okay, nobody. Okay, so now we'll go to item number 3.
Mayor, I make the motion that we table this item number 3.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion to table item number 3, a motion and a second. All in fa-
Mayor Ortega, before we vote, Bill, do we need a date certain for the return of the table?
No, because it's not like a zoning matter. I think what will happen is I really want to discuss with Jamie. I think what makes it very difficult to grant the variance is the public health and safety. So I'd like to discuss that with Jamie. I'd like to discuss that with the applicant and its attorney, or his or her attorney, to see if we can explain to them why we believe this is the right course of action, or alternatively, they could explain to us why they think a variance is appropriate. I mean, I'm supporting Jamie at this time, but I'm keeping an open mind. No, we don't need a specific date.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to table this item number 3. All in favor?
So there's no time frame,
Right.
there's no time frame,
It'll be
and
looked at. by
what
the
you're mainly
attorney.
wanting to do is give them a chance to speak it over in case something else.
Right.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and it's tabled. And we'll close the Board of Adjustments and reconvene into regular council meeting.
Already it closed.
Thank you. Okay, item number 11. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of February 12th and 19th?
Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the minutes from February 12th and February 19th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the 12th and the 19th. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. And we'll move on to number 2. It's the City of Safford Vision and Strategic Goals. John.
Good evening, Mayor Ortega, members of council. This is a request for the city council to adopt a city vision statement and a set of strategic goals. The purpose of the materials is to articulate city council's vision for the city of Safford and to tie that vision to strategic goals. Background: currently there is no explicit document that articulates the city's vision or the overall areas of interest of the elected body. The analysis: by definition, budgets are the distribution of limited resources. Inherent and implicit in that definition is the prioritization of those limited resources. The mechanism by which that prioritization should occur should be contained in community values as articulated through the elected body. This document seeks to articulate those values with a vision statement, a set of strategic goals with activity-based goals that can be pursued both in the annual budget process and over an extended period of time. The latter aspect providing for continuity of purpose over a longer time frame. Budget implications are not directly financial, but should significantly impact how ongoing annual operating and CIP budgets are assessed, prioritized, and approved. And I guess I will attempt at sharing. Okay, so the first slide is what we just discussed. So the vision statement as written, the vision of the city of Safford is to serve as a catalyst for our community in creating an engaging environment that will produce a high quality of life, including a robust economic climate that encourages business development, a culturally rich and vibrant downtown corridor that emphasizes community events and cultural heritage, and the creation of diverse recreational opportunities with an emphasis on activities that utilize the natural climate and beauty of our region. As you can see here, this is a list of strategic goals that is referenced in the CCF. Subsequent slides talk about each of these individually. So beginning with quality of life, continue the city's ongoing efforts to develop park recreational amenities, and here we discuss some of the parks, Discovery and 8th, El Paso Park, and some of the other amenities that we have in town, such as the golf course and the dry lake recreational amenities. In addition, we have city beautification program, and our Parks and Rec Committee addresses some of these issues. Monuments, signage, beautification, and naming policy for 2 parks are among those items. Code enforcement, we've gone through a series of changes in code enforcement that include home yard cleanup program, neighborhood cleanup program, community-wide brownfields program, upgrade and remove dilapidated infrastructure, and then support further development of library services and support public safety needs, both fire and police. Another area that we have discussed is infrastructure development and maintenance. Streets, there's been discussions on continuing to work on developing east-west corridors. Building maintenance discussions have kind of surrounded the idea of life cycle maintenance, that maintenance that lies between capital budgeting and ongoing operational costs. In terms of parks, again, one of the items we may want to look at is to include standards that would require parks to be part of residential developments, and then the development rationale behind a comprehensive plan to build multimodal transportation corridors, which basically is bike paths and walking paths throughout the community. Further infrastructure development and maintenance, this specifically addressing utilities. Development, implement rate studies for all major utility funds approximately every 5 years. Again, this should be an ongoing process. Utilize data-driven life cycle maintenance schedules for all major utilities to facilitate proper utility system longevity. Again, utilizing the full spectrum, both operational, life cycle, and capital, and using data to do the analysis of the infrastructure and then determine budgets to rectify infrastructure as it ages. Compile workload data to develop metrics, again, feeding back to the same concept, using data to analyze the condition of our infrastructure, and continue implementation of public outreach program to educate Valley residents on utility conservation. Again, this is one of our first steps in trying to encourage conservation of our resources, and then explore opportunities to fully utilize reuse water. Further, in utilities and the infrastructure development and maintenance, explore utilization of Fry Mesa water resource, explore opportunities to expand customer base, implement updated electric rate programs, and continue to diversify energy resources such as solar to minimize commodity price fluctuation impacts. Again, these are more longer-term goals. Financial management, properly manage City of Safford capital projects and asset values. Maintain city fund balance policy for all major operating funds, which is 50% of prior year actuals, excluding capital, plus current year debt service. Discuss use of general fund balances for project development. Again, these are just examples, but they're items that have been discussed. Fire station, municipal complex, and recreation center field house.
Mr. Caselli,
Yes, sir.
the 50% of our fund balance, and you say not including capital, what exactly that mean? The capital projects, capital monies does not fall into that 50%?
Mayor Ortega, Councilman Lopez, that's correct.
So we have nothing in capital projects that we need to have that reserve?
That's not what that's saying. What that's saying is that the reserve for a fund, general fund, electric, water, is based on prior year operational costs, 50% of those, plus current year debt service. So it's not including capital projects as a calculation of that 50% number.
Because we've already targeted that and probably budgeted for it.
Right, and the capital projects, they would be one-time money, so they would already be self-contained, right? So there wouldn't be any long-term exposure because the capital projects would have already been funded.
They've already got their number.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Growth and development, seek opportunities to pursue annexation if possible. And the flip side of that is to pursue infill opportunities which may assist by a comprehensive blight program. Again, on the one hand, you're expanding the community with annexation. On the other hand, you're redeveloping internal sites to take off dilapidated buildings and infrastructure and then provide an opportunity to rebuild. We've created an interdepartmental development group that works to update the code and implement comprehensive development tools based on best practices that can be used to encourage development, and then continue to seek opportunities to develop the city Safford Airport. Intergovernmental cooperation, again, this is something that we've emphasized of late, and so here you just see a list of organizations that that opportunity would exist, although it looks like the wraparound didn't work on the one. But so we already have an IGA with the Safford Unified School Districts. The Samaritan House, again, is an example of us working with other communities in the valley, in this case helping to pay utility costs. Seeking opportunity with Native American tribes to have more interaction and community events. Community Pride Days, golf course management, Graham County Chamber of Commerce, Graham Economic Partnership, which is a recent group that has stepped up on economic development, Small Business Development Center, and then, of course, Eastern Arizona College. So again, these are opportunities for us to seek out intergovernmental cooperation. Legislative advocacy, utilize the new assistant city manager position to further develop participation in legislative activities at the state and federal levels. Again, taking what we're already doing to a deeper level. Last year we brought our state delegation to the community and gave them a tour and talked about some issues that were of concern to us. We can take that to a deeper level and also expand that to the federal level. Plan annual delegation visits, which I just discussed and we have done. Entertain issues with other local jurisdictions. Again, the idea being to kind of group up in like-minded communities throughout the state to help leverage any issues that we as small communities might face, as opposed to a lot of legislation tends to be geared toward Phoenix and Tucson. This would help us to get more leverage at the legislature if we could group up with other small communities. And of course, work with the League of Cities and Towns to facilitate that, and also to carry any issues that we as an individual community might have.
Can you remind me when we have business again about equipment exchange with other cities and stuff? Because we've talked about that in the past, and I think there was some law changes that we could go in different places, not just to the state inventory place, but we can talk about that when we have other meetings.
Business relations and development, this is kind of a new area, and it's an area that we are starting to focus more on. Begin to develop a program that seeks to engage with businesses more directly. Again, this is really intended to kind of try to get some feedback from businesses in the community if there are things that we as a city could do to assist. Obviously, we're somewhat limited with gift clauses and those types of issues, but understanding what some of those issues are and finding areas that we may be able to assist. Work with the local Chamber of Commerce to identify business needs and provide support where possible. As a participating member, work with the Graham Economic Partnership to identify and pursue growth opportunities for our region, and then pursue business opportunities in the city's downtown area, which our Community Development Department is already in the process of doing. Use of technology to provide services. Again, this is a big ongoing issue, always will be. We're obviously in the process of putting fiber optics in and getting fiber to our parks, and we obviously get it to our own facilities as well. And then fully training staff on the effectiveness of current city software packages such as CityWorks and Cassell. We've got a long-standing history with Cassell. That software has gone underutilized, staff has been undertrained. We're in the process of changing that. We work with Cassell on a regular basis now. We've done it with our payroll system. We're now in the process of doing it with our capital project management. Additional modules such as purchase orders will be coming online. And then, of course, CityWorks is really more of a work order system that deals with basically deploying our utility folks at this point. We started with water, and it will go to the other utilities, and also helps us to keep track of the infrastructure that we're maintaining. But again, the software is only as good as the implementation, so we need to focus on training and ongoing maintenance of that software. Public interaction and outreach, utilize traditional social media resources to keep public informed in a timely manner. Work to maintain positive media and public relations, and to continue to encourage the Parks and Recreation Committee to provide input regarding citywide recreational opportunities. Again, this represents a palette of opportunities, both from traditional to social media, as well as engaging citizens, as we did with the Parks and Rec Committee, to provide additional input and advise council on things such as parks and different amenities in the community. So again, kind of a diverse approach to outreach. Human resources management, again, institute and maintain competitive salary and benefit structure based on best practices and industry standards. This is something we worked very hard on last year, and the upcoming budget cycle will be an opportunity for us now to get beyond dealing with issues like compression and actually implement a salary and benefits package based on a COLA merit system. Implement salary survey every 3 years. Again, I think we've seen that the ranges need to be kept up to date in order to stay in keeping with the external market. Even step programs like the police department has did not work over time because the ranges in which those steps occurred fell out of sync with the market. So again, that salary survey becomes an important mechanism of maintaining that competitive edge when dealing with the external environment. Seek to encourage employee development through training and education. Again, I think this is highly important, and we've seen this repeatedly. I just talked about it with things like software, but it can deal with anything from customer service to capital project management to dealing with employees. There's a wide swath, depending on your position in the organization, on training and education, including things like educational assistance, where people are getting degrees that would benefit them in terms of carrying out the duties of their positions. Seek to utilize succession planning to provide employees with internal promotional opportunities. Again, this would be both in terms of moving into new positions, but also developing an existing position. So if an employee within a position took on additional skill sets, which then raised the level of the abilities of that employee to provide input and work product for the city, then you could literally promote within your position by being reclassified. So not only in being promoted between positions, but actually growing positions so that they provide additional benefits. And again, that's based on the capacity of the individual in the position. So if they have that capacity, I think it's in our best interest to take advantage of it. Continue to use and develop employee appreciation activities, programs, and events. Again, this is that kind of multi-layer, creating an environment that is fun in some respects for the employees, and it gives employees an opportunity to support one another in these activities and create some level of camaraderie. And again, last year we added additional funding to those programs to provide more opportunities to provide that program to the employees. So that's the end of that. That's the end of the presentation.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make sure for our goals that we continue with water exploration, that it stays within there and maintain a high priority. And the public safety, we've got a good start on that, and we've got momentum going in that area, and I'd like to see that continue. Also, I'd still like to work earnestly on identifying our substation in the future, our electrical substation that needs to be built, and that takes some time, identification of property, just takes a lot of effort to plan that out, and I don't want it to fall out of the strategic goals.
Anybody else?
Yeah, me. I'd like to commend whoever wrote the agenda item. I think it's well worded. And I'd like to almost read it word for word as I read it into a motion to approve. I like the fact that it says this is a beginning and it ties it to our strategic long-term budgetary goals. So I'll move that the council adopt the proposed city vision statement and a set of strategic goals. The purpose of this exercise is to begin the process of articulating city council's vision for the city of Safford and tie that vision to strategic, long-term, as well as budgetary goals.
We don't need any amendments to that for what I said. It's already understood. We need that in there? Okay.
Well, I think it's a good point, though, and it is a valid one, which is that we will look at these on an annual basis. We can revisit them. They're not chiseled in stone. They're things that I'd like to revisit. The idea, again, trying to use those more general categories to carry longer-term objectives, but we should be revisiting this on a regular basis.
So that was a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Safford's vision and strategic goals. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then we'll move on to item number 12, resolutions. Number 1, resolution R24-005. It's the airport commemorative naming. Cameron?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Mayor and Council to discuss and take action with respect to the commemorative naming of the Safford Regional Airport and approval or disapproval of Resolution R24-005, Airport Commemorative Naming. A little bit of background, on November 13th, the city manager discussed the possibility of commemorative naming for the airport during a city council work session. The council provided direction to conduct research for an appropriate namesake for the airport. The airport manager requested nominations from the public on November 21st and collected 3 nominations before the submission period ended on December 31st. Mr. Dwayne Spalsbury, Mr. H. Lyle Grant, and Mr. Leven Farron were nominated by members of the community for the airport commemorative name. The airport manager contacted the families of all 3 individuals and conducted research into their military service and following civilian life. On February 19th and tonight, council had the opportunity to hear about the life and legacy of these candidates from staff and their families. All 3 candidates served as pilots or aircrew during World War II and later settled in Safford and had an impact on their community following their military careers. Naming the airport after any one of these men would ensure that their legacy of service is carried forward as an example to future users of the airport and members of the community. It is recommended that council select a candidate for the commemorative naming of the airport. Staff also recommends establishing a wall of honor in the airport terminal to highlight individuals who have contributed to aviation in their military or civilian careers and were residents of the Gila Valley. The 2 candidates who were not selected would be included in that wall of honor. With that, I will stand for questions.
Anybody have any comments?
No comments on it? This shows you that we are from a small town community because all 3 of these candidates I do know, have known. Mr. Farron is certainly distinguished with 28 missions. Our own mayor had 30 of them in combat, not flying missions, but insurgents in Vietnam. He's up there a little bit to me also. Mr. Grant, who I grew up with listening to and been given presentations as I went through school, was always good to hear about the hero times that took place. One we're missing was probably Mr. Norris, who went through the Bataan Death March from Thatcher that I grew up with too. Mr. Spalsbury, who I personally know and got to listen to some of his stories personally and always have admired. This is a tough, rough choice. But Mr. Farron, he has more Pima contacts. Mr. Grant has a park in his name in Thatcher, Lyle Grant Park. Mr. Spalsbury, to me, is a more Safford person, and I'm looking to name the Safford Airport. And so I guess I'm kind of leaning towards Mr. Spalsbury.
Anybody else?
Cameron, I appreciate that we came up with an alternate solution for other candidates and future candidates. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely, Mayor Ortega and Councilman Hemphill. I think this whole process speaks volumes to the number of individuals in this community that have done amazing things both in their military and civilian careers. And I didn't want to leave this as a close-ended process, that as new individuals are presented, that we have a way to honor them and memorialize their years of service.
I think, I agree. That commemorative wall, I think, is very important.
We had Mr. Andazola's dad hanging out of a helicopter in Vietnam behind an M60. That wall is going to get covered with men and women that have taken place, done things. We have a 105-year-old veteran up on the hill over here that we need to interview for the Fields of Honor next year. We better do it now. But that's where I'm at. I get all crazy.
Okay, then we need a motion. It's an action item. Was that your motion?
I make a motion to name Mr. Spalsbury for the airport name.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to name the airport after Mr. Spalsbury, along with the commemorative wall. That should be in the motion too.
Yeah, and you can, Mayor Ortega, you can say for those that are not chosen for the actual naming at the airport, we will begin to build a commemorative wall
So we have a motion and a second?
I
All-
believe Mr. Hempfield seconded.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think that's a beautiful step that we took to name the airport that way, and then the commemorative wall. I think that's really, that's super.
I'll have to read it into the minutes.
Okay.
This is approval of resolution number R 24-005, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, naming the Safford Regional Airport to honor the legacy of Mr. Dwayne Spalsbury, USA. Sorry about that.
Then we'll go ahead and move on to, number 2, the resolution R 24-008, the key to the city policy. Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and City Council to adopt or deny Resolution 24-008, adopting a key to the city policy. The City Council held a work session on February 12th, 2024 to discuss the upcoming presentation of a key to the city to Justin Gaethje. The city does not have a current policy for this honorary designation. By adopting a standardized policy, a process will be established to nominate, evaluate, and award a key to the city to deserving recipients. It is understood that this will be a rare honor and not an ongoing program. Staff is recommending that the City Council adopt R 24-008, establishing a clear process and standards for the honorary designation. And in your packet, you have Exhibit A, which is a draft policy, and the resolution adopting that policy. With that, I will stand for questions.
Mayor, I make the motion that we approve resolution R 24-008, key to the city policy.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 24-008. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Approval of resolution number R 24-008, a resolution establishing a key to the city policy for the city of Safford, Arizona.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item number 13, the ordinances. Number 1, ordinance number 024-001, it's a Fisher rezone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is staff requesting a second reading and approval or denial of ordinance O24-001, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, rezoning Graham County Assessor's Parcel 10120-020C from Agricultural Residential District to the R2 Multiple Family District. This is the second reading, and I have the file here if you have any questions.
No, sir.
Okay. It's an action item.
I move that we accept the ordinance 024-001, the Fisher rezone.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 024-001, the Fisher rezone. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion it carries.
Thank you.
This completes the second reading and approval of ordinance number 024-001, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, effectuating a map amendment rezoning Graham County Assessor's Parcel Number 101-20-020C from City of Safford AR Agricultural Residential District to R2 Multiple Family Residential District.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item number 2, ordinance number 024-002, the amendment to the City of Safford's Municipal Code Title 19, Aviation. Cameron?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and City Council to have a second reading and approval or denial of ordinance O24-002, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 19 to update the City of Safford Municipal Code. I'm able to provide additional details that were provided in the first read if you would like.
Okay. We need a motion, it's an action item.
So moved.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 024-002. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Did you vote, Councilor McGinn?
I meant to, I'm just slow.
Yeah.
This completes the second reading and approval of ordinance 024-002, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 19 to update the City of Safford Municipal Code.
Thank you. Okay, then item number 14, contract agreements and bids. The first item is number 1, 8th Avenue Park and Discovery Park. It's a CIP number PK 2303. Okay,
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to authorize and execute a professional service agreement between the City of Safford and Kimley Horn for the engineering services of the 8th Avenue and Park Complex. Just a quick reminder, there was a phase 1 that we had some ARPA funding for. They came and presented. They did a phase 1, phase 2, and a phase 3. So this would be for the engineering for completion for phase 2 and phase 3. They're requesting $427,236 on this request for phase 2 and phase 3. This has been reviewed internally within Mr. Lance Henry, myself, and John Casella. We support the approval of this to finish out the park design based on some of the council feedback. We did have a CIP budget of $1.6 million. Like I said, phase 1 was covered in the ARPA funding at $322. This part right here will be an internal cost to the city, which will take us to phase 2 and phase 2 and 3 completion of $427,000. So that puts the total impact of $759, just a touch over $759,000, which is still under the 10% for estimated engineering costs. So we're comfortable in this costing and the scope of work. So staff recommends the Mayor and Council to approve the contract and enter into an agreement for the construction of the 100% at $427,236, and also allow the city manager his designee authority to execute change orders not to exceed 10% of the contracted value. With that, we'd stand for any questions you guys have.
any questions from the council?
I make a motion, we approve the 8th Avenue Park and Discovery CIP PK 2303.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the 8th Avenue Park and Discovery Park agreement there. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, wastewater treatment plant. It's to bid the award for the rehabilitation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to authorize a bid award and enter into contract with Schofield for the construction and rehabilitation of the North Clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant. Just a little bit of background. A couple years ago, we did the rehabilitation of the South Clarifier. This is the north, which entails just replacing a lot of the pump mixers. A lot of the steel that's infrastructure that's in there is going to get recoated and replaced. We took this to bid, and we received 2 bids back in February 6th. You can see those 2 bid amounts. We had a $450,000 budget, and so we're recommending Schofield get it, which is slightly just a little bit higher than what our budget was. Their bid came in at $467,400. You can see in the budget recap that we had a budget of $450,000, and so this puts us at $17,400 over budget, which we're asking for approval of contingencies within the same fund within wastewater. Staff recommends the Mayor and City Council to approve the bid award and enter into contract with Schofield for the amount of $467,400 and approve the use of contingency funds in the amount of $17,400. This would come from wastewater treatment plant. It's also recommended to allow the city manager or his designee authority to execute change orders not to exceed 10% of the contracted value. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Council have any questions?
It states here that this project is being funded via enterprise funds.
Correct.
These funds are coming out of the wastewater treatment
Correct.
monies. Okay,
Yes, sir.
not the general fund.
Yeah, correct. That's coming out of the wastewater treatment funds.
Okay.
Anybody else? It's an action item?
I move that we authorize the bid award and enter into contract with Schofield for the construction of the rehab of the North Clarifier.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you, Council.
And then item number, the professional service agreement, we're gonna table that until the March 11th meeting. Okay?
Mayor, do we have to go through a motion on that one or no?
Yeah, I believe you do.
I make the motion with table, item number 3.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion, a second to table item number 3, professional services agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then we'll move on to item number 15, financial reports. Number 1 is the P-card reports.
Too late.
Chasing it down.
I knew it, that's why I was waiting.
Are you almost there?
Almost there. On the petroleum, I like it now because it identifies what type of petroleum it is, but I still haven't heard in quite some time if we have any red fuel or we're ever gonna bring any red fuel back online. We're gonna bring it back into existence.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman Lopez. So actually, we're currently undergoing the process of communicating with the vendor that we had selected previously. We haven't really heard much back from them, so we're still pressing on getting the project done. Possibly getting a notice to cure from our attorney sent to them because we haven't had anything done.
Is red fuel, is it profitable to us, or do we have a savings in there or not, or have I just been
Mayor and
crying about this for 2 years?
Mayor and Councilman Ortega, red fuel is for off-road equipment, obviously. You pay a highway tax on the highway fuel, sales tax on the red fuel, and until red fuel gets down around $3 a gallon, it's not profitable. It's cheaper to go with regular diesel fuel. So that, until it gets down around $3, we probably won't buy any red fuel anyway. So just so you're aware of that. We're gonna run regular diesel fuel.
Is our tank still in good enough shape to accept it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what tank the one tank he's talking about, we do need to get updated, so if we do have a separate red diesel tank at the MIOC, we'll have that separate tank for it. The other tanks, like the one at the landfill, they fill it every once a week with regular diesel, and if they switch back to red, you don't have to do anything to it, you just put it in there.
Okay, so right now, not truly profitable.
It's
but-
cheaper to go with regular diesel right now, just because the price of diesel's so high.
But you guys haven't forgotten me.
I haven't forgotten you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Move on to item number 2.
I have one more.
One more, okay.
Replacement blades for Bad Boy mowers. Is that the actual name, or is that you guys' nickname? Bad Boy mowers.
All of our parks mowers, the brand name is Bad Boy Mower. That's the brand name. So.
I thought, because I like descriptions for
Some-
everything, I
some-
thought somebody was
Some
trying
of
to
my,
see if I was
some of
reading
my,
it or
some of my
not.
parks employees might go by Bad Boy if you call them that, but our mowers are actually Bad Boy mowers. That's the brand name, and,
Okay, I thought y'all was testing me.
yep, just testing you.
Okay.
You thought they were picking on you, huh?
Yeah, they'll do that.
Now they will.
Okay, and I had one more question, but it'll end up being for Mr. Bingham when he's in attendance.
Then we'll move on to expense is over $5,000 report.
I'm good, Mayor.
Then we'll go to revenue over $5,000 report. Okay. Then hearing none, we'll move on to item number 16, report on operational items.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. On February 6th, City Engineer Gabe Bowman, Police Chief Avila, and myself, along with local representatives from the county, Thatcher and Pima, attended a Southeast Arizona Transportation Safety Plan meeting, which was organized by Christopher Treese with SEGO and their consultant, Kimley Horn. I wanted to briefly update you on how that meeting went, what they presented to us. I do have a map I want to pull up real quick just so I can have it on the screen. It'll let me. I'll zoom in on this when I get down a little bit further. But anyway, just to kind of update you, Southeast Arizona Governments Organization, or SEGO, and the Sierra Vista Metropolitan Planning Organization, or SVMPO, are preparing the Southeast Arizona Transportation Safety Plan. This plan includes all 4 counties in the SEGO and SVMPO regions, which is Cochise, Graham, Greenlee, Santa Cruz, each incorporated jurisdiction within them, and the San Carlos Apache tribe. The Transportation Safety Plan will present a holistic, well-defined strategy to reduce roadway fatalities and serious injuries in the SEGO and SVMPO regions. The plan will analyze the safety needs, identify high-risk locations, and factors contributing to crashes, and prioritize strategies to address them. The previous Transportation Safety Plan was completed in 2008, and is typically updated every 5 years based on new crash data. This plan will include data from 2018 to 2022. The plan also identifies safety emphasis areas that coordinate with ongoing updates of the 2024 Strategic Highway Safety Plan. It establishes goals and recommends strategies and projects to reduce fatalities and serious injury crashes for vehicles and multimodal transportation users. It prepares Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP, applications for top-ranked projects with committed sponsor agencies, which requires a 5.7% local match. The plan will also seek to meet eligibility requirements that allow local jurisdictions to apply for implementation grants through the U.S. Department of Transportation, such as Safe Streets and Roads for All, which is SS4A discretionary grant program, which is funded by the BIL funds. We identified through this meeting our highest priorities based on crash data. The good news is we don't have a lot of crashes number-wise in Safford. We have some problematic areas. This is the kind of the highlight of the Safford area. Yellow is minimal crash data. The red is kind of the highest crash data. Our highest crash areas one is right there in front of Walmart and Home Depot. Obviously, that's the highest volume of traffic, so we probably have our highest number of accidents in that area. That's one area we want to look at. Our highest priority right now that we told them would be 8th and 8th intersection. Not only the 4-way with the railroad and the pedestrians crossing there, that's kind of a high safety issue right there, so we want them to look at that one, and 20th Avenue. And then our next highest volume of accidents will be 8th Avenue in relation, that 4-way intersection, and that's a pedestrian and vehicle access. And like I said, the numbers aren't super high at any of these, but those are the ones we're gonna have them look at. Kimley Horn will look at these projects, come up with maybe some scope of work, the highest ranking projects or highest possibly funded projects could be funded through the Highway Safety Improvement Plan. The one in the last program, the one project that got through the last program was the shoulder widening on Golf Course Road, and that was a joint effort with the Cottonwood Wash Road widening. That was one project that this HSIP that came through the strategic plan last time around. So that being said, I'm open to any questions you may have on this, but we're going to keep plugging forward this, and I'll update you with any further action we need on this, because we will need local support if we get this plan ready to go. It needs to be supported by the local council, so we'll bring a resolution for that once we get that in place.
Anybody can? Did you?
Mr. Henry, everything seems to be going good too since you identified the bike paths. You know, I'm just talking about crashes and stuff. I haven't heard of anything going bad in them lanes either. Has it helped?
The bike lanes on the streets?
Yeah, that you identified are, because
Well, we've kind of cleaned up and identified them. We still need to stripe them all, and that's coming with our new striper we got. Once we get it, our fog sealing done this spring, we'll stripe out most of those bike lanes, and we haven't had too many issues with that. You know, we're gonna continue to identify those as we move forward as our corridors expand too, so. And this also had some data, and I didn't point that out. It talked a little bit about 20th Avenue in relation and golf course in relation, and since then we've got those traffic signals up and they're working well, and we've kind of addressed that one already. They weren't in the red as far as crash data, but they were pointed out as in our top areas for traffic incidents.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's it, thank you. Excuse me. And we'll go on, to number 2, update on the police facility.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Safford Police Department Evidence Custodian, Misha Curtis, will give you a presentation on the updated evidence facility that has now been completed. As you know, it was a 2022 CIP project. It was recently completed, and she's going to get some pictures. And I'm not going to take all her information, but it does look really good. So with that. Maybe. All you gotta do is walk up, Mo. And here's Misha.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here. I wanted to share some photos and my appreciation to you for the opportunity to expand the evidence room. So with that, I will go ahead and get started with the little PowerPoint. A lot of people will ask why our old evidence room is 216 square feet, and it is literally filled to the brim with items that cannot be released, returned, or destroyed yet. Items are turned in faster than they can be removed out of the room, and legislation has increased the ARS statute retention time considerably since 2017. So this is our present room. And so you can see down this aisle, that's our storage for the bins, and in the back there are our long-term items that will probably never be released during my time, or our time, including all of ours. And this is the other side of the evidence room. And on this side, the larger items are in the middle, and again, long-term is on the right-hand side. Most of those are sex cases and some ag assaults that we will not be able to release for quite a while. This is the cabinet that stores a lot of our firearms, drugs, money, and jewelry, and as you can see, it is plumb full. I really have to struggle to get things added into that. So we started the demolition in August and September of 2023. The City of Safford Maintenance Department performed the demolition, which included the patrol room, booking room, utility closets, and the evidence custodian's office of the Safford Police Department in the old building. And so this is the area of the patrol room. There's several walls missing, but that's the main portion of the patrol room. And that is the utility closets that were removed. And the booking room that looks towards the utility room, the utility closets. Construction started and was performed by Danson Construction LLC after the demolition was complete. Danson Construction LLC constructed the main storage room, the armory rooms, the walk-in refrigerator and freezer area, the evidence processing area, and the pass-through locker area. And also a self-sustaining generator was also installed. So this is the new evidence area. That's the main room that most of the bins, well, where all of the bins will be. And this is the old patrol room that is now going to be the pass-through lockers. And there, the construction was complete without the lockers. And then that's our generator that was placed. So the completed project, after Danson Construction LLC completed the construction, the City of Safford maintenance crew came in to put in the final finishing touches. Fulton Herreras and the crew designed and created an evidence processing table as well as 2 long gun racks for the armory area. So this area here is the packaging area. That's where the officers will come in and package their evidence. They have all their test kits, supplies, computer for their labeling, printer, gloves, etc. And this is the other side that will have storage and supplies as well. This is the pass-through locker with the refrigerator, pass-through refrigerator as well. And over to the left, that little black square is a phone charging area for those phones that need to continue to be charged during search warrants until they're completed. And this is the back side. This will be behind the locked door, and that's where I will take the evidence out of those pass-through lockers. This is the table that the maintenance crew built and designed for the evidence processing area. And this is where I will take the stuff from the officers and put it and get it ready for storage. And here's our walk-in refrigerator and freezer. They look identical, but the temperature, you'll notice the temperature if you go into them. And this is what half of one will look like. Couldn't get the whole picture in the whole room in the picture. This is the main evidence area, and there will be room to add a few more shelving when needed. And so that will be the new evidence room, the large evidence room. And this is an armory. It has to be locked within the evidence room, and that's where the firearms will be held. And again, maintenance made those long arm rifle holders. That's not what they're called, but I'm nervous. So they built 2 of them for the armory. And then the handguns will go in this smaller room. And there's Sergeant Garcia placing the first evidence into our pass-through lockers. So the expenditures, the main number on the right-hand side, that is as of today, we have around $15,000 left. There are some other things that will be coming out of that, and hoping that we will be able to apply that to some future projects, which may include the floor update in the evidence packaging area, cabinetry update, a security system for the evidence room, and then updating the rest of the building is always a plus. But I'd like to thank the City Council, Mr. Casella, all the chiefs from Joe Bregman, Glenn Orr, and Brian, and all of the Public Works, all of those listed there. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with them and to make the Safford Police Department a better place to work. And I truly appreciate your input and your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
Chief, Mrs. Curtis, you said you ended up with a dedicated generator to sustain it?
Yes, sir. For the freezers, we have to maintain those even in power outage because she was saying a lot of that evidence, say a sexual assault case, has to be kept for years before any of us will be alive, honestly. So we have to maintain that. If we have an extended power outage, it has to be maintained at a certain temperature, so we had to have a backup generator on those freezers and refrigerator.
It seems like a lot of planning was put in this, and it looks like it's working out fine.
It's going well, yes, sir. Thank you.
Very
And
good.
nobody will be eating in the evidence room, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Not anymore.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure.
May I also include, if any of you would like to take a tour, to please contact me, and I'd be happy to take you through
I
that,
think
so you
that
can
would be
see it.
nice if the council could, maybe we can break us up, don't have a quorum to schedule a tour. I think it'd be a great idea.
That would be wonderful.
And we can notice a quorum, so if you ended up having one,
Okay,
we
then
could be
why don't we do that, and maybe we can get together and find out when we can, plan it. I think that'd be great.
Thank you. I would appreciate you guys to come and look at it.
Would you have a sack lunch for us, at least?
You bet.
I just asked that question.
I want to spend that last little bit you had.
Pardon me?
I want to spend that last little bit you had for, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 17, announcement of current events. Anybody?
Mayor, I just wanted to make a quick announcement that our Human Resources Director went to our annual conference with Raggett where they set the insurance premiums, and they rose 4.99%, or will rise in the next budget cycle. So I just wanted to let you know that we had that information and that we'll be incorporating that into our budget numbers this year.
Thank you.
And Mayor, I attended when the 5 sheriffs came to the valley. It was well attended too at the Center for the Arts. They put out quite a bit of information. One of the eye-opening ones again was with what the state of Texas is doing to try to protect their sovereign state. It may added people's coming through here, over here, and so we just all need to beware so that crime doesn't increase. But it was a very interesting presentation by the 5 sheriffs. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then if not, we'll move on to item 18, request for future agenda items. I have one that I would like on our, futures. And that is that, we need to come up with a new Siegel representative. We could do that, what, it'd be, for next month's meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Just so you know, I resigned to Siegel after, a number of years, because I want to spend more time as mayor, and Siegel does take time, but it's needed. Thank you. Anybody else?
Mayor, make the motion, we go into executive session and take a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Okay. It's gonna be 5 minutes.
You have to have a
Vote.
second and a vote?
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
5 minutes, I got the gavel. That's it. Okay, we'll close the executive session and reconvene into a regular council meeting.
Mayor, I make the motion, we get back into, regular session and, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.